We are still with quotes from ancient historical books that can know more about us than we do about ourselves. In your opinion of the Algerian president with the longest reign in modern history? Bouteflika 20 years old, no. Boumediene 13 years old, no. He is Mohammed bin Othman, known as Hajj Mohammed, who ruled Algeria for 25 years, beginning in 1766, born in Algiers in 1710. His assumption of office came with his diligence and promotion, and because of his knowledge and good management of the administration, because he was not from Ries Al Bahr. He declared war on Denmark and Norway, and we're going to publish a special article on this subject and how he forced them to submit like other European countries. Today in our hands is this book containing the archive of American secret correspondence, which Congress approved for publication in 1832 and signed by the Secretary of State in the sense that the correspondence is verified and official. And from the correspondence we find a letter from the officers of the United States Navy who are in prison in Algeria to the second President of the United States of America, John Adams, who was Vice President George Washington, who dates back to the Mohammed bin Osman regime we spoke of. It means that the temporal circumstance of the letter is that Algeria is under the rule of Mohammed bin Othman and the United States of America under George Washington, and the content of such a letter will undoubtedly give us more information about Algeria's history and the region in that era. Let's read the message. Sir, we regret that your 3 letters dated September 29, 1786 have no hope of our salvation or even give us a reassuring signal. Maybe you get misinformation from Mr. Lamb about what went between him and Alday. But we will remind you of the truth. On Saturday, March 25, 1786, Mr. Lamb arrived with a Spanish runner-up and Mr. Randall to negotiate from Prince Mohammed Pasha. The captain of the ship came down to the port and asked to meet the Hajj agent, who is the 3rd man in the country, and informed him that 2 men from the United States were asking for permission to disembark in order to get some of their citizens out of prison. Mr. Lamb asked to be allowed to have the honor of kissing the Algerian ruler in order to agree to peace with the United States of America, but Alday refused. If you came to negotiate about American captive soldiers in Algiers prisons, welcome you and I will hear you. On March 29, Mr. Randall rode in a Spanish vessel and left Lamb in Algeria. He then returned to Alday on April 1, after being mediated by the French consul. On April 3, the American consignor returned to the Dey, asking him what price he could pay for the release of American prisoners. He replied that America was willing to pay $10,000, and Alday told him we were asking for $50,000. Mr. Lamb's response that the amount requested is reasonable and that he will consult with his escorts. Then he came back on the 5th day and proposed $30,000, so he raged at the Dey and told them to let them go in prison. So, we have bread and olives that feed them the whole time, to spend at last Mr. Lamb and the Dey around the deal, and he agreed to baffle us at the price that Alday required and traveled to bring the money and promised that he would return in 4 months, but he did not return that information that we learned as prisoners of a young Algerian working at the palace. His name is Sidi Ali. Sir, we are not writing in these letters just in order to speed up our disturbance from Algiers prison, but to know that Mr. Lamb abuses U.S. foreign policy by not making appointments with Algerians because Alday thinks that America does not commit to deals and appointments. And if Lamb saw that the price was great, why he agreed during his meeting with Alday to become a victim of evasion and insult to America's reputation. Your messenger Mr. Lamb Dey deceived Algeria and insulted our American homeland. I don't think we're ever out of here. There are prisoners who have been released free of charge and who have been left in prison forever. They are applying what they want and no one has their say in negotiation. We understand that your payment of exorbitant money to us would have caused you embarrassment in front of the Europeans, but you must do your best to rid us of hard work here and become slaves with no prisoners of war. So we wish you to take us out of this slavery, and we just hope that Mr. Lamb tells us something different from what he tells the Europeans and you. But the obvious and sure thing is that he misrepresented America with the Algerians. He wanted to buy peace and we wanted to get rid of families first. If Mr. Lamb gets a chance to sit down with the Dey 4 times and he can't free us, how could he conclude peace treaties or negotiations, because the $40,000 or $50,000 reflected nothing for the Algerian ruler and the richness of his state? And let me remind you, sir, that states have always assaulted their secrets with all their money and not to negotiate simple funds. And you and the Spanish and the Europeans who missed their captives every time, and if they know that ransom money will make Algeria stronger, and today, as we see, there is no country in the world that buys half the right ships like Algeria. Mr. Lamb, when we met him last time, told us that he had brought with him only $6,000 as a gift to the Algerian ruler for his pleasure and not within the ransom of the liberation of prisoners. This is how the letter ended with the following prisoners of war: Richard O'Brien, Zachrat Coffin, Isaac Stevens, Andreo, and Alexander, whom they recognized in prison. And for readers of history and fair opinions, this message alone bears all the meanings of power, pride, and sovereignty of the Algerian nation, which says what a nation enjoys. We hope this will be an addition to your historical information.